Incredible encounter. Little girl asks Marine for bread, revealing a touching truth about hunger. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows in the small town where Sarah worked tirelessly at the local diner. The clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation masked her internal struggles, yet she felt them weighing heavily on her chest. Each shift left her exhausted, physically and mentally, barely enough money in her pocket to provide for her spirited 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The bills loomed like unforgiving reminders of her reality, a jagged mix of pride and desperation threatening to drown her. Why could she not manage? Why did every dollar feel like a fist pressed against her throat? As she cleaned a table, a fleeting thought invaded her mind. Did Lily eat her lunch today? The last few days had been a blur of early mornings and late nights, cooking unremarkable meals from dollar store ingredients. Guilt churned in her stomach as she pictured her daughter's bright eyes glowing with hope at the sight of a decent meal. It was the kind of pride Sarah believed would shield her from reaching for help, yet she was also aware of the gnawing hunger that settled deep in their home. Despite the aching void in her heart, Sarah didn't allow the fears to break through the surface. No one in her community spoke of hunger, not honestly. It was an unspoken shame that lingered beneath the smiles and small-town pleasantries. But as she wiped down the counter, her mind was racing, trapped in a whirlpool of anxiety and self-doubt. Was it foolish to think pride could keep them afloat? She clenched her fists, wishing for a way out, a slice of fortune that felt as distant as the stars overhead. Meanwhile, on a chilly afternoon, as children broke from the schoolhouse, Lily walked home, her mind buzzing with little questions. When she spotted a Marine in full uniform, she was caught in the moment between childhood innocence and the harsh truths of their life. Anchored by the sight of a man who had fought for their country, she felt a strange longing, not just for food, but for stability, for someone who might understand her quietly struggling world. "Excuse me, mister," she called out, her voice small but brave. "Can you spare some bread?" The simplicity of her request pierced through the noise of the town like a bell, tolling in a quiet cathedral. In that moment, she wasn't asking for just food. She was voicing something bigger, a yearning for connection. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jacob, the Marine, turned to her, his heart clenching at her innocent yet weighty request. He understood her in ways he couldn't articulate. Hunger, not just for bread but for recognition and hope. Their conversation unfolded, layers of shared hurt and resilience clutching at the air between them. But Sarah, watching from a distance, felt her chest tighten as she recognized the connection being forged, her fears wrestling against the raw urgency in Jacob's eyes. What kind of life was she providing? The ache of inadequacy surged as she struggled to suppress it. Intricate webs of her failures danced before her eyes. It was then she realized that the struggle for dignity overshadowed far more than just food. Would she ever connect with someone like Jacob, who personified what it meant to sacrifice? While they spoke openly, peeling back the layers of their respective wounds, a storm brewed within her. They were wrapped in each other's pain, drawn together by a desperate need. Sarah's thoughts spiraled, fighting against her pride. Could she rely on someone else when her life felt so precarious? The air grew laden with the tension of unspoken words and hidden truths as she processed the growing bond between them. Time slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. She felt trapped, a cage of dignity clashing with vulnerability, as Lily's quietly brave inquiry echoed like the tolling of a bell, ringing in the shared silence. All while she stood frozen, waiting for courage to take that first step into the unknown. The blaring sound of the diner's bell heralded another customer, but Sarah's focus remained solely on the scene unfolding outside the window. Jacob knelt down, his words enveloping Lily in a momentary cocoon of shared understanding. With each gentle smile he offered, Sarah felt a pang of longing ripple through her. There, before her, was a possibility, an avenue for connection, and perhaps a route to transformation. She closed her eyes momentarily, the chaos of the diner still thrumming around her, and that warmth twisted into a stubborn insistence in her gut. A flicker of hope ignited. Perhaps it was time to uncoil herself from the rugged chains of pride that bound her. Vulnerability might just be the key to something greater, she mused, smiling at the stark contrast between her hardened exterior and the softening of her resolve. Yet the gnawing fear clawed at her. What if reaching out meant opening herself up to more pain? The thought was an antithesis to the armor she had fashioned around her heart. In the whispers of the night, she replayed Lily's innocent request. It wasn't only about food, it was about something more profound. Connection, security, a glimpse of what family could be beyond the meager scraps they fought to survive on. As she wiped down another table, Sarah considered that perhaps Jacob, with his quiet strength, embodied hope. But how would she allow him, someone so foreign yet familiar, into their fragile lives? Her shift ended, and as the last customer exited, a sense of urgency overtook her. She stepped outside, the evening air crisp against her skin, and found Jacob still kneeling beside Lily. Laughter danced between them, a captivating sound tinged with innocence. At that moment, she wanted to beckon him over, but fear held her in place, dampening her certainty. "Mom!" Lily's joyful call shattered the silence enveloping Sarah. With wide eyes, she approached Sarah, dragging Jacob in tow. "I told him about the bread. He's really nice, Mom." There it was, the bridge. Jacob extended a hand to Sarah, a silent invitation. His gaze radiated warmth, yet faint traces of the storm lingered within. "Hi, ma'am. Your daughter is a real bright spot." "Thank you," she managed, her voice almost a whisper, betraying the tempest within. In that moment, with these two people, her daughter glowing with hope and a Marine bearing his heart, boundaries began to dissolve. She felt her walls shivering in the wind, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to dismantle them. I appreciate what you did," she stammered, her heart racing as she toyed with the threads of her dignity unraveling. "I could use—" His expression shifted immediately, a recognition blooming in his eyes as though he understood what unsaid words hovered on her lips. "No need to thank me. We all have our struggles, right?" A soft ember of courage flickered within her. Sarah understood the unsaid communication, the vulnerabilities they each harbored. Would she dare to confide in this stranger? Not only as a mother but also as a person navigating the edges of existence, yearning for validation beyond her hardships. "Would you like to come over for dinner one evening?" she asked, her voice a testament to her bravery. There was a quiet defiance in her choice, and yet beneath it all, a question clung to her, a whisper more insistent than the rest. Would this new connection break their cycle of hunger, not just for food, but for something bolder, a morsel of hope? As the shadows deepened, Sarah stood at the threshold of transformation, poised on the cusp of a new path. The warmth of Jacob's genuine smile anchored her readiness to embrace vulnerability. But looming beneath was the question that circled her thoughts like a hawk ready to dive. Could she truly let someone in, and would that act of courage unravel hidden strengths within herself? The air grew thick with unspoken possibilities, and as she immersed herself in the tender moment, one burning thought ignited. What if this was the chance to reclaim her worth not just as a mother, but as an individual worthy of connection? In the days that followed, Sarah's world began to shift in subtle yet profound ways. Each morning she awoke with the same gnawing concerns, a cacophony of bills, responsibilities, and the familiar weight of loneliness. But now there was something else echoing within her. Anticipation. The dinner invitation she had extended to Jacob lingered in her mind, a bright thread woven into the fabric of her day. As she went through the motions of work, wiping down countertops and attending to customers, her thoughts drifted to that evening. What would it be like? Would Jacob come? The uncertainty made her heart race, caught between excitement and the haunting fear of disappointment. Emily, her coworker, noticed the change in her demeanor. "You seem different, Sarah. Happier," she remarked while stacking plates in the back of the diner. "What's going on?" Sarah hesitated, doubts bubbling to the surface. How could she share the depth of her feelings, the yearning for companionship, and the hope that battled against her fear. "I just met someone," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, the admission flickering like a fragile flame. Her coworker's smile widened, encouraging. "That's great. Someone outside this place, right?" "Sort of." The word hung in the air, heavy with the implications of its abstraction. They may share a taut connection now, but would an evening with Jacob truly alter her loneliness? The thoughts chased each other in her mind, creating a whirlpool of what-ifs. When the day finally arrived, Sarah spent hours preparing. She mustered the courage to dust off her dining table, which had long been cluttered with remnants of their chaotic life. She cleaned with a mission, removing not just layers of dust, but also remnants of her insecurities. In that earnest busyness lay the quiet realization that she was crafting a home, a safe haven, not just for herself, but for her daughter, and now, hopefully for Jacob. As dusk settled, Sarah placed the last dish, a steaming bowl of her old family recipe for white bean chili, on the table. The savory smell wafted through the air, mingling with the simmering excitement that buzzed in her stomach. She glanced in the mirror one last time, scrutinizing her reflection, willing herself to believe that she was deserving of this moment, of this connection. "Mama, is he here yet?" Lily's innocent question brought Sarah back to the present. "Not yet, honey, but he'll come. I promise." Sarah stood straighter, grappling with her nervousness while reminding herself of the small victories she could cling to. She needed to remember that vulnerability wasn't a weakness. It was a doorway into the unknown. When the doorbell finally rang, a jolt of adrenaline surged through Sarah. She opened the door to see Jacob standing there, a little shy but with a smile that nearly stole her breath. He held a small bouquet of wildflowers, a gesture that wrapped around her heart like a warm embrace. "These are for you," he said, presenting the flowers as if they held the weight of 1,000 words. "I figured a little something would brighten the mood." "Thank you. They're beautiful," she replied, surprised by the swell of emotion within her. Inviting Jacob inside felt monumental, a soft thread of hope weaving through her vulnerabilities. As they settled at the table, the initial awkwardness slowly melted under the warmth of shared laughter. They spoke easily, trading stories of their lives, Jacob recounting tales from his days in the Marines, and Sarah beginning to share her struggles, how they defined her, yet made her seek more. Yet, as they shared these moments, an internal battle raged within Sarah. She felt the familiar heaviness of doubt creeping in, silent whisperings that warned her of potential heartbreak, of opening up too much. The evening unfolded, light and laughter interspersed with deeper conversations. Jacob listened intently, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt seen, not just as a mother, but as a woman with dreams and hopes that were slowly beginning to awaken. But just as she began to believe in the possibility of this connection, the weight of her past loomed larger than ever. Fear threatened to overshadow the moment, a reminder that every choice came with consequences. She couldn't shake the feeling that choosing to let someone in might lead to a vulnerability she wasn't prepared for. Then Jacob said something that shattered the fragile cocoon they had woven. "You know," he began, a seriousness settling into his tone, "if you ever need help, or if something's bothering you." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Something in Sarah's chest tightened. Vulnerability had its price. Could she share her burdens, or would that be the very thing that drove her deeper into solitude and shame? As the stakes grew, Sarah's heart raced and time felt suspended. Here she was, at the brink of personal discovery, standing at the edge of a precipice with Jacob, and the ultimate question loomed, pulsating like a heartbeat. Could she open herself up to the pain of potential rejection, while still holding on to the burgeoning hope of connection? The evening stretched on, fraught with both possibility and fear. Would she confront these insecurities, or would she retreat behind her walls once more? As Jacob leaned forward, an earnest look on his face, adrenaline surged again, and the pivotal moment approached. The real challenge was just around the corner, and she knew the time had come to face her internal abyss head-on. The silence that followed Jacob's offer felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, the world both terrifying and thrilling. Sarah's heart hammered as her mind raced through countless scenarios. What would happen if she let him in? What if this connection was meant to blossom into something more significant? Could she risk the uncertainty of exploring deeper feelings, knowing her past could shadow any future? Jacob's gaze remained steady, an anchor amidst her storm of thoughts. "You don't have to pretend with me, Sarah. I'm here for you," he said, the sincerity in his voice cutting through her defenses like a warm knife through butter. His words ignited a flicker of courage within her. The weight of vulnerability felt less threatening in that moment. Maybe, just maybe, sharing her truth wouldn't lead to heartbreak, but rather to connection. It was a long time since she had shared her burdens with anyone beyond a friendly grin or a casual comment. Yet here was a man who seemed to offer not just himself, but a chance at opening a new chapter in her life. I've had a tough time," she began, her voice trembling slightly, strengthened by a newfound resolve. "Raising Lily alone has been overwhelming. I worry so much about making the right choices." Each admission felt like a small step forward, stripping away years of silence and isolation. "It's scary to think that I could open up and then regret it." Jacob nodded, a look of understanding washing over his face. "Everyone has their battles. I've faced my own, and I can tell you, opening up can be frightening, but it also brings relief." His words were tinged with an empathy that she hadn't expected. Here was a man not just archetypically masculine, but also sensitive, relatable in his own scars. The warmth of connection enveloped them, and Sarah felt the pulse of possibility beat through her. "I hope I'm doing right by her," she confessed, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. "It's just Lily and me. Sometimes it feels like I'm doing her a disservice by not being the parent I want to be." "You're doing your best. That counts for a lot," Jacob said gently, prompting her to continue. "What do you want for her? What do you dream of?" The question hung heavy in the air, its weight both daunting and invigorating. Sarah shifted, contemplating. "I've always wanted her to feel loved and secure, to have options. I guess I want her to believe she can achieve anything. Whatever that may look like," she said, voice now steady with dreaming. She felt empowered by articulating her vision, envisioning a future beyond her current hardships, perhaps one where she could stack her dreams alongside her responsibilities. "And what about you?" he probed, tilting his head curiously. "What do you want for yourself?" It was an unexpected question, piercing through her protective layers. She hesitated, feeling the ground beneath her shift. The truth emerged unbidden, shaped by years of repression and longing. "I want to feel like I'm enough, that I'm worth pursuing my dreams, not just for Lily, but for myself too." A quiet moment passed as Jacob absorbed her thoughts, and when he finally spoke again, his tone was firm yet compassionate. "You are enough, Sarah. No one's perfect, but every step you take towards believing that in yourself can create a ripple effect. For you, for Lily." In that moment, something within Sarah aligned. She could almost visualize the boundaries she had meticulously constructed around her heart, their fragility stark against the hope ignited by Jacob's kindness. If she could share this truth with him, then maybe she was more capable than she ever believed, more prepared to venture into the future with intention. A knock at the door interrupted them both, breaking the intensity of their conversation. Sarah's heart sank slightly, wary of the interruption, fearing a retreat to her safe haven. But something vital had shifted inside her. She knew now that she would not run. She could face the uncertainty of whatever awaited. Lily burst through the door, a whirlwind of energy and laughter that lit up the dim atmosphere. "Mama, guess what? My teacher said I can have show and tell this week." Her enthusiasm was contagious. As Sarah watched Jacob interact with her daughter, his smile genuine and laughter effortless, she realized that this was a turning point. This familial dynamic could open doors she had thought sealed tight forever. The prospect of sharing her life with someone who embraced both her joys and sorrows ignited a spark of hope that electrified her very being. Yet as she laughed and relaxed into the moment, a flicker of doubt still lingered in her mind. What about the fears that had haunted her? Would they resurface in the face of this unexpected companionship? Jacob's eyes met hers across the room. A silent assurance swirled between them. But the question remained. Was she ready to integrate her past, her dreams, and her newly embraced vulnerabilities into this blossoming connection with him? The room pulsed with energy, anticipation hanging thick in the air, a fragile balance between promise and uncertainty. As Jacob's smile widened, as Lily spun tales of her classroom adventures, Sarah felt the stakes rise again, a tantalizing pull toward revelation. Was this the moment she would fully embrace her journey, or would she drift back into the realm of fear? With a deep breath, she realized the next step loomed just ahead, and it was time to decide whether to step forward or retreat. The choice now felt electrified with potential, and she stood on the precipice once more, the very edge of self-discovery awaiting her embrace. The next morning dawned with a brightness that felt almost like a challenge. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting energetic patterns on the walls. Sarah stood at the counter, making pancakes for Lily, the aroma filling the air and lifting her spirits. Yet, beneath this seemingly tranquil surface, an undercurrent of anxiety vibrated through her. She turned her attention to Lily, who was engrossed in a storybook, her little fingers tracing the words. Watching her daughter, Sarah felt a swell of affection and a chilling pang of uncertainty. The gravity of her desires and fears swirled within. What kind of mother could she be if she didn't seize the possibilities unfolding in her life? Was she prepared to navigate both her responsibilities and the budding relationship with Jacob? As pancakes sizzled on the griddle, Sarah's thoughts drifted to Jacob. His kindness was an unfamiliar warmth, inviting yet defying her instinctual hesitance. Why did she still resist? What was it about intimacy that frightened her when she yearned for connection? The lingering doubts about sharing her life with another person gnawed at her. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jacob, simple, yet loaded. Hope you and Lily are having a great morning. Can't wait to see you later. A flutter of excitement coursed through her. This connection felt promising, but it also magnified her growing fear of inadequacy. The cracks in her self-doubt widened. What if he discovered her flaws, the stigmas of her past she still buried deep within? "Mommy!" Lily called, bringing Sarah back to the present. The sparkle in her daughter's eyes, a source of creativity herself, dulled her inner fears. "Can we make a poster for show and tell?" "Yes, of course," Sarah replied, instantly motivated. They moved to the living room, where paper, crayons, and scissors transformed into a whirl of laughter and color. As Lily's imagination took flight, Sarah felt the magnetic pull of her daughter's joy. Here was her purpose manifesting in real time. Yet underneath it all, a realization ignited. If she could guide Lily into confidence, she had to embody it herself. "Mommy, what are you going to show at my show and tell?" Lily asked, her wide eyes looking up expectantly. The question hung in the air, echoing the profound message Sarah had uttered only days earlier, about wanting to feel enough. "I think I'll share something about how to be brave," Sarah replied, a tentative smile breaking free. The words tasted different, more potent than before. "Brave is good," Lily chirped, her excitement contagious. "Can we be brave together?" "Yes, sweetheart. Together, always." The affirmation fueled Sarah's resolve. If Lily was seeking bravery, wouldn't it make sense for Sarah to model it? Moments passed, filled with laughter and vibrant discussions about what bravery looked like in daily life. It transformed into brainstorming sessions, each idea shared, both silly and earnest, pulling Sarah closer to her daughter, yet reminding her of the distance she still felt between herself and her dreams. Yet in kindling the courage to support Lily, Sarah unlocked a broader determination of her own. She envisioned the potential of sharing her struggles, her story, and yes, even her hopes with Jacob. The path she was hesitating to walk before now seemed possible, though daunting. As the day unfolded and the hours drifted toward her encounter with Jacob, Sarah found herself increasingly restless. She busied herself with preparations, a mix of her maternal instincts compounding with a burgeoning anticipation. What if this was the moment she could redefine not only herself, but the legacy she would pass on to Lily? Just before sunset, Sarah momentarily paused, looking at her reflection in the window. Her heart raced, a reminder of all she had yet to embrace. Every inch of her fought against the fear wrapped tightly around her heart. It was time to confront the lingering shadows of the past. This wasn't merely about opening up to Jacob. It was about committing to the woman she wanted to become. When the knock at the door finally came, it startled her out of her reverie. Jacob stood there, an inviting smile anchoring her to the present moment, yet that familiar rush of uncertainty flooded back. This was crucial. What part of herself was she willing to reveal? She hesitated, the weight of the decision palpable. The threshold before her was both an invitation and a challenge. Would she open the door fully, or would she retreat again into the safety of her walls? With a deep breath, she reached for the doorknob, ready to step into the unknown, fueled by determination and fear in equal measure. The time had come to face whatever lay beyond. As the door swung open, Sarah's heart raced, caught between vulnerability and excitement. Jacob stood before her, an effervescent energy emanating from him, contrasting sharply with her inner turbulence. His smile, warm and inviting, made her momentarily forget the storm brewing inside. "Hey there," he greeted, stepping in, the fresh scent of outdoors trailing behind him. "Wow, it smells amazing in here. Are you cooking something special?" "Just pancakes," she replied, unsure whether her answer carried the same warmth of his greeting. It felt trivial compared to the whirlwind of thoughts clamoring for attention in her mind. "Pancakes it is, then," he exclaimed, his enthusiasm a balm on her frayed nerves. "I could definitely go for some of those. So, what's the plan for the evening?" His question lingered between them, and Sarah grappled with the various threads of their conversation. What to say? Should she delve into her feelings, the anxiety gnawing at her insides, the dreams waiting to unravel, or keep things light and casual? "Well," she ventured cautiously, "I thought we could make dinner together and then maybe—" The words trailed off, caught in the chaotic swirl of her mind. "I don't know. Just spend some time together? With Lily, of course." Her voice softened slightly, her focus shifting to how he would interact with her daughter. Would he see the beauty in their bond, or simply be overwhelmed? "Sounds perfect. I'd love to help out." He smiled again, and in that moment, Sarah caught a glimpse of the man he was, a gentle spirit, seemingly unfazed by pressures or masks. It drew her in, yet her walls tightened instinctively. They moved to the kitchen, and while Jacob facilitated Lily in setting the table, Sarah stepped back, watching. Within Lily, she saw unfiltered joy, the kind that melted barriers. For a second, Sarah pondered how bravery radiated from her daughter, while she remained enshrouded in fear. Was it not time for Sarah to mirror that? The laughter floated around the room like a melody, wrapping itself around Sarah's uncertainty. Jacob interacted effortlessly with Lily. It indeed struck her how well they fit into each other's lives. Suddenly aware of her own hesitations, Sarah felt the ache of a realization. If she wanted to nourish this budding relationship, it needed her active involvement, not just as Lily's mother but as her own autonomous self. "Lily, why don't you ask Jacob what his favorite color is?" Sarah suggested, her voice steadying with purpose. It was a small push, but she recognized this as a pivotal moment to engage all of them in connection. Lily bounded over, eyes wide with innocent curiosity, her enthusiasm contagious. "What's your favorite color, Jacob?" "Great question. I'd have to say blue. It reminds me of the ocean. What about you?" As they spoke, Sarah felt something change within her, a small shift that moved her closer to engaging openly. Stepping towards the task, she joined in, curious about his response, and surprisingly eager to share the parts of herself she kept tucked away. Dinner progressed smoothly, but beneath the laughter and chatter, an underlying tumult brewed within Sarah. The topic turned more personal, each story shared taking them deeper into each other's lives. As they exchanged anecdotes, she felt an ember of courage beginning to spark within her. Yet, unbidden, doubts began to whisper again. Fear threatened to rear its head. What if she went too far? What if she misstepped inviting him into her life? Then Jacob's gaze met hers, earnest and affirming. "Sarah, I want you to know that I'm here for you and Lily. I like both of you. No need to hide. Just be yourself. His simple statement pierced through her barriers, shaking loose pieces of her resolve. She could almost feel warmth unfurling where anxiety had held fast. This was her moment to shape a future unclouded by fear. "Thank you," she replied, her throat tightening around the confession brimming to the surface. "It means a lot to hear that." "That's what being brave is, isn't it?" he countered, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Opening up is harder than it seems." His words shifted something within. She wasn't just guiding Lily in the pursuit of authenticity. She was beginning to take her own steps too. The bravery she had painted for Lily started to reflect back on her. As the evening drew on, laughter punctuated the air, a reminder that vulnerability didn't break connections. It only deepened them. But that same heaviness, the weight of the decisions that lingered on her horizon, remained. Sarah wrestled with the thought. Could she truly embrace a partnership that required her to reveal not just who she was trying to become, but who she had been? And as that uncertainty sank deeper, she wondered, what would it mean to finally confront the elements of her past she had been so reluctant to face? With that thought simmering in the background, she sensed the gravity of the moment. They stood on an edge, the promise of growth almost palpable. The uncharted territory loomed large in her mind, inviting her to take a leap. Yet, still, she hesitated, a single question framing it all. Could she bear the cost of truth? The night wore on, but the answer she sought seemed to retreat just beyond her grasp. The more connections they forged, the clearer it became. The real challenge was only just beginning. As the last plates were cleared from the table, Sarah leaned against the kitchen counter, her mind still swirling in the afterglow of laughter. Jacob and Lily were now engaged in a playful debate over whose favorite cartoon character was the best, a delightful scene that tugged at her heart. She felt a smile creeping onto her lips, but beneath this surface happiness, an unease lurked like a shadow. A subtle tension had woven itself into the fabric of the evening. Moments ago, Jacob had been an ordinary presence in her life, but now he represented something unnerving, an opportunity to reshape her reality. Could she truly let him in? The thought was daunting, yet intoxicating. "Do you have any special memories connected to your favorite color?" Jacob's question pierced through Sarah's reverie, pulling her back into the conversation. As she watched him engage with her daughter, a warmth bubbled within her, confidence mixed with an almost petrifying fear. But Lily, with her unfiltered spirit, blurted out a story about a blue crayon that had once melted under the sun, and Sarah found herself momentarily lost in laughter, the memory carving a path through her anxiety. "They should make a movie about that," Jacob joked, chuckling along with Lily. Sarah's heart tightened at the joy emanating from their connection. How easily he slipped into their world. It was genuine, carefree. But would that authenticity last once the layers of her life began to unravel? As the evening wore on, the clock ticked relentlessly toward bedtime. Lily eventually yawned, rubbing her eyes, signaling the end of their lively interlude. Sarah glanced at Jacob, whose eyes sparkled with kindness, and felt the decision that hovered on the edge of her consciousness become an anchor weighing her down. Once Lily was tucked in, Jacob wandered back into the living room, glancing around as if absorbing every detail. "You have a lovely home," he remarked, leaning against the doorway. "It feels warm, cozy." Sarah offered a soft, absent smile, her mind racing. "It's a work in progress," she admitted, feeling the urgency of the moment. Truth. Now it was time to acknowledge her own walls, even if exposing them felt daunting. "That's what makes it special," he returned, his gaze steady on her. "Growth takes time. I'd like to help you with that." Help. The word vibrated in her chest. Did she want assistance, or was it more about letting someone in without fear of them seeing the chaos she kept hidden? Inviting Jacob into that part of her life was a gamble. There's a risk in vulnerability that could lead to rejection, or worse, disappointment. She swallowed hard, grappling with the true cost of opening up. There's a lot of history here, some good, some not so good. The admission felt like a small leap into an unfamiliar abyss. History can either hold you back or propel you forward, Jacob replied, eyes deepening with understanding. You get to choose how it shapes your life. What are you planning to do with yours? The rawness of his question struck a nerve. Confronting her past wasn't just an emotional endeavor, it was tethered to her future. She could be courageous, embrace authenticity, and in doing so reshape this blossoming relationship. Or she could retreat into the safety of her well-worn fears. His words echoed in her mind as her resolve wavered. But what if my past overshadows my present? She whispered, the vulnerability of that thought exposing itself among the warmth that lingered in the room. Then you face it together, Jacob said, his tone firm yet gentle. It's a risk worth taking. Let the people who care about you, like me and Lily, help shoulder that weight. Sarah felt a surge of emotion, a desire to shed the defenses that had kept her isolated for far too long. Maybe she had spent enough time merely surviving instead of thriving. Was it possible she could allow Jacob to be part of that journey without losing her foundation? As she leaned back against the couch, contemplating his words, the door of her heart creaked open just a fraction wide. The glimmer of possibility sparkled ahead, but doubt still loomed like a thick fog, threatening to engulf her. Can I really do it? She dared to ask herself, the weight of vulnerability almost suffocating. Just then, the soft sound of Lily's footsteps echoed down the hall, a small, innocent reminder of everything at stake. "Mom!" her daughter's voice piped up, filled with a childlike curiosity. In that moment, Sarah faced a stark realization. The path ahead was hers alone, but with Jacob's support, she could traverse it. This conversation was only the beginning of something beyond her comprehension, but something within her stirred, a faint promise of bravery awakening. As Lily re-entered the room, bounding toward her, Sarah realized the challenge hadn't evaporated. It had only begun, to confront not only the struggles of her past, but the person she had yet to become. With a newfound tension filling the air, she felt her heart race. Could she hold steady? Could they move forward together as she peeled away the layers of her truth? Let's see where this goes, she murmured under her breath, the resolve hardening in her chest, a stir in the depths of possibility that would now guide her steps. But as they settled into the moment, a sliver of doubt pierced through again. Was she ready to uncover the depth of her struggles for them? The questions lingered and Sarah braced herself. Her journey was just beginning. The real test awaited her, one that might crush her spirit or ignite her true potential. Would she be willing to meet the challenge head-on? The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the cluttered countertops and the faint remnants of last night's dinner. Sarah sat at the table, sipping her coffee, the warm liquid a comforting anchor as her thoughts spiraled in a myriad of directions. Today felt pivotal, a day of reckoning with not only her past, but the enticing potential of her future with Jacob. Clarity, however, was elusive. She had spent years designing a fortress around her emotions, shielding herself and Lily from the vulnerabilities that came with attachment. How ironic that this sturdy wall now felt more like a prison. The realization set in. If she wanted to experience genuine connection and growth, those walls had to come down. But how? The lingering doubts transformed into a low hum of anxiety in her chest. Could she truly navigate the emotional landscape that lay ahead? Each thought was a wave crashing against the shore of her resolve. She could either drown in the fear of confronting her past or rise to meet the challenge with courage. Lily bounded into the room, her pigtails bouncing, as she clutched a drawing, bright colors exploding on the page. "Look, Mom, I made this for you." She thrust the paper forward, eyes sparkling with excitement. The drawing depicted two figures, one taller and broader next to a smaller, childlike version. "This is you and me," Lily exclaimed, her joy infectious even amidst Sarah's inner turmoil. For a moment, Sarah felt her worries fade. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I love it." That affirming smile came easy. But beneath it, the growing tension crept back in. What kind of mother was she, hiding her doubts from her daughter? "Are you happy, Mom?" Lily asked, a question so straightforward yet layered. The innocence in her voice was mesmerizing, but it threw Sarah into the depths of introspection. Of course, she wanted to say yes, but her heart sang a different tune, filled with chords of uncertainty and fear. "I'm learning to be happy," she replied carefully, measuring her words. How could she embody happiness if she was burdened by unhealed wounds? Perhaps it was time to embrace more than her role as a mother. She needed to nurture her own identity, to rediscover who she was outside of that relationship. Stepping into her own skin, confronting that fear head-on, could pave the way to liberation, not just for her, but for Lily too. With a newfound urgency, she set the coffee cup aside and took a deep breath. The decision was hers to make, to allow Jacob in, to accept help, and to confront the aspects of herself she had hidden for far too long. Could she articulate this new resolve with purpose? As she pulled herself into a chair at the kitchen table, the soft scrape against the floor echoed like the drumbeat of a decisive moment. "Lily," Sarah began, focusing on her daughter's expectant gaze. "I want to tell you something important about growing and being brave." Lily's face shifted to intrigue. Attention zeroed in on her mother, and Sarah felt the gravity of her words as they prepped for flight. "We all have parts of ourselves that we need to explore. It's not always easy, but it's how we bloom." The metaphor resonated, blooming gently in a heart yearning for understanding. Lilies, roses, wildflowers, all requiring patience, sunlight, and a willingness to weather some storms. I want to be a good example for you. I want to show you that it's okay to grow, even when it's hard. Lily nodded gravely, absorbing her mother's unveiled honesty. The room felt charged with potential. This was not only about Sarah's growth, it was also about Lily's ability to recognize courage within herself. Their dialogue opened a channel, revealing layers of vulnerability that previously remained untapped. They could embark on this journey together, fortified by unwavering love and an assurance that honesty carried weight. Yet, in the midst of this intimate revelation, Sarah felt a hint of apprehension. Was she truly ready to embrace the forthcoming turbulence of confronting her past? What if unearthed truths haunted her? The specters of doubt loomed ahead, darkening the path she envisioned. As she leaned back, reflecting on her words, the doorbell echoed through the house, sharp and unexpected, jolting her from her reverie. Who could it be? With a sense of foreboding mixed with curiosity fluttering in her chest like a trapped bird, she stood to answer the door. Could this visitor be the catalyst for yet another unexpected twist in her burgeoning journey towards emotional liberation? The weight of uncertainty and the promise of revelation intermingled as she approached, heart racing. Sarah's hand hesitated on the doorknob, her heart pounding in tune with the sudden rush of adrenaline. The fleeting warmth of her moment with Lily dwindled, replaced by the buzzing uncertainty cocooning her mind. What did this visitor represent? An opportunity? A threat? With a deep inhale, she opened the door, revealing a figure she hadn't anticipated. It was Jacob. The sun caught the contours of his face, casting him in a soft light that momentarily played with Sarah's imagination, invoking every glimmer of potential she'd envisioned for their future. But now it twisted into confusion. Had he sensed her turmoil, arrived just when she was teetering on the edge of self-discovery? "Hey," he said, his voice casual, but his eyes scanning hers with a seriousness that dug beneath the surface. "I wanted to check in on you. Is now a good time?" Sarah's thoughts raced. The past month with Jacob had been a whirlwind of laughter, connection, and an unspoken yearning. Yet, here he stood, and with him came a torrent of emotions she had yet to process. Did she define herself solely through their shared moments? Or was it possible to invite him into the next chapter of her life while still embarking on her personal quest for healing? "Sure," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady, ushering him inside. The creak of the door seemed to echo the uncertainty within her. "Lily and I were just—" A pang of guilt shot through her as she remembered their intimate conversation. "Well, we were talking about growth." "Growth," Jacob repeated, stepping into the warmth of her home. He kicked off his shoes at the door, the familiar habits encasing him in a newfound ease. "That's a big word, full of possibilities. Are you feeling ready for it? Ready? That's one way to put it. Sarah felt her defenses slowly sinking. She realized that the walls she'd built had partially crumbled with Lily's honest questioning, a child's innocent inquiry capable of unveiling layers of adult complexities. But Jacob's presence brought a new challenge. Could she articulate her needs without retreating back into the safety of her emotional fortress? "I don't think it's that simple," she said, her sincerity piercing through the room. "Learning to be happy, to confront what I've avoided. Sometimes it feels like entirely too much." Jacob regarded her with a mixture of tenderness and understanding, a stark contrast to the internal ruckus swirling inside her head. "It sounds like you're trying to walk both paths at once. Be a good mother and rediscover who you are. It can feel like pulling strings from two ends of a tapestry." His words resonated with her, striking the chords that vibrated with both frustration and hope. What if I fail? What if this journey means facing parts of me I'm not ready to confront? What if it doesn't? Jacob countered gently. What if it becomes a revelation, a way to connect with the person you've been hiding from yourself? A flood of warmth washed over Sarah as she noticed the depth of his commitment, a genuine concern for her well-being. But just as quickly as it arrived, the doubts bounded back. The precarious balance of forging ahead, sharing vulnerabilities while leaving room for growth involuntarily nudged at her instincts to retreat. "Jacob," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I need to be upfront with you. I'm not entirely sure how to navigate this, how much I can share. I need to build myself up before we can move forward." He didn't flinch but nodded thoughtfully. "Then let's take it one step at a time. I'm here for the journey, however long that may be. Just know, you're not alone in this." Sarah's heart flickered with resilience, the connection growing like a fragile vine, intertwined but not overshadowed. As she looked into his eyes, she recognized that exploration needed to start now. She had to muster the courage to peel back the layers while remaining open to the vulnerability of shared experience. Just then, the sharp giggle of Lily filled the air, a reminder of joy and innocence waiting just around the corner. Her daughter raced into the room, oblivious to the tension that had simmered moments earlier. "Mom! Jacob! Do you want to see what I built with my blocks?" Before Sarah could respond, she felt Jacob's hand find hers instinctively, grounding her. In that smallest of gestures, they shared a silent pact to weather the unknown together. With a deep breath, Sarah pushed aside her lingering apprehensions and leaned into this moment, realizing triumph and turmoil could coexist in her unfolding journey. "Absolutely, sweetheart," she called back, ushering freshness into the air. But as she turned to Jacob again, the uncertainty nestled deeper. Could she truly embrace this partnership while still figuring out her own way? The questions remained, tangled with possibility, but the door was ajar now. What lay ahead beyond this day was still waiting to be discovered. The afternoon sun streamed through the open window, casting a golden hue over the living room, where Sarah, Jacob, and Lily sat surrounded by the colorful chaos of toys and laughter. The playfulness of the moment filled Sarah with warmth, but there was an undercurrent of importance threading through the air, a promise that change was imminent, one that required courage and clarity. Each block Lily stacked brought her a step closer, an echo of all the foundational moments Sarah had pondered during restless nights. This was the time to embrace her journey. As she watched her daughter's triumphant expressions, an appreciation for her own role blossomed. She had spent too long holding back, worrying and hesitating, when she could be demonstrating the very qualities she wanted to inspire in Lily: bravery, resilience, and authenticity. "Mom, look how tall I made it," Lily exclaimed, her face beaming with pride. "That's amazing, sweetheart," Sarah replied, the thrill of Lily's accomplishment sparking a fire within her. The moment felt monumental, an affirmation of the shared strength embodied in her little girl and her own evolving journey. Jacob's presence anchored her excitement. He knelt beside Lily, nurturing the connection they were all beginning to forge. "You know, building things takes patience," he remarked, guiding her hands to steady a wobbly tower. "Just like life. Sometimes it leans one way or the other, but we just keep adding layers. The sincerity in his eyes made Sarah's heart swell. With each shared moment, she felt the veil of her reservations lift ever so slightly. In those minutes spent together, the walls she had built to guard her heart began to soften, revealing the possibility that vulnerability didn't have to lead to despair or regret. It could be the key to forging deeper connections. "Jacob," Sarah said, her voice steady now. "I've spent a lot of time worrying about the past, how to deal with the remnants of pain or notions of inadequacy, but I'm realizing that I can't let that overshadow what's building right now." He turned to her, eyes wide with understanding, and his expression confirmed that he was willing to walk alongside her through this unfolding journey. "You're recognizing it. That's the first step. Embracing your past as part of who you are now. It's powerful." A rush of gratitude for his unwavering support surged within her. "I want to grow. I want to set an example for Lily. I want her to know that struggles can become strengths." "And they will," Jacob replied. "You're proving that every day just by being here, open to all this." Sarah took a moment to feel the weight of those words. There was no denying it. She was finally on the brink of dedicating herself to transformation, not simply as a mother, but as a woman who had spent too long stifling her ambitions, her dreams, and her worth. The realization flooded her with conviction. It was time for action. With newfound determination, she stood up and turned to Lily, whose radiant smile lit up the room. "How about we work on a project together?" she proposed. "Something that tells a story of who we are as a family." "Yeah!" Lily shouted, bouncing on her toes. "Can we make a scrapbook of our adventures?" "That's a fantastic idea," Jacob chimed in. "You could include everything, special moments, challenges, and all the things that make you, you." As the plan took shape, a palpable excitement filled the room. Time seemed to drift in their shared dream, each moment forming the foundation of what lay ahead. Sarah made a vow to weave together their stories, not just to capture experiences, but also to allow them to shape their futures, and learn what it meant to be brave in vulnerability. Days melted into weeks as they diligently compiled leaves of adventures, artistic explorations, milestones, and moments of connection. Sarah recognized that as they pieced memories together, each layer reinforced her resolve. Vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a powerful catalyst for growth. Jacob became a steadfast supporter and co-creator of their project. Each time they sat together, his unwavering presence encouraged Sarah to open up deeper about her past. She shared stories of her struggles, fears, and triumphs, and he affirmed her journey with understanding, validating her inherent worth. The scrapbook blossomed into a living testament to resilience, a tangible representation of growth amid shadows. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. It reflected not only the woman she was becoming, but the values she was eager to instill in her daughter. Each page contained evidence of joy cracking through darkness, while the laughter that echoed in their home grew louder. When they finally finished the project, they sat together, flipping through the pages, and Sarah felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. It was the culmination of bravery, every page representing a piece of their evolving narrative. "Mom?" Lily asked, her curiosity mixed with innocence. "What's your favorite page?" Sarah paused, reflecting on the collection that encapsulated their journey. Every moment captured held significance, but there was one that stood out, a photograph of the three of them sharing ice cream in the park, jubilant smiles plastered across their faces. "This one," she exclaimed, a smile lighting up her features. "It reminds me of happiness found in simple moments." Jacob leaned closer, his presence solidifying the bond forming between them. "Those moments are what make life beautiful. Remembering that we can always come together through challenges and triumphs is the heart of family." In that moment, Sarah recognized that growth is not a solitary pursuit. Surrounded by laughter, there flourished a tangible sense of companionship she had long yearned for. The fear of inadequacy had been replaced by purpose. Each interaction strengthened their bonds and nourished her essential self. In the subsequent weeks, Sarah focused on nurturing not only her connection with Lily, but also her relationship with Jacob. She learned how to express her needs and began to embrace the facets of herself she had hidden for too long. A deep-seated confidence blossomed within her as she accepted both compliments and criticism, recognizing that both could catalyze growth. As autumn approached, Sarah's life transformed in ways she had only dreamed possible. While challenges still lingered, anxiety was met with strength. The strength of her relationship with Jacob and the unbreakable bond with Lily. She had achieved what she once thought unattainable. She had stepped into her power and reshaped the narrative of her life. By confronting her insecurities head-on, Sarah discovered the beauty of authenticity, paving the way for meaningful connections. Together they stood in front of a blank canvas, ready to paint new memories, creating a future forged from resilience and love, the irreplaceable ties that would anchor them through every storm. As Sarah reflected on her journey, the tears, laughter, and everything in between, she marveled at her growth. She had chosen connection over isolation and held her head high. Through embracing vulnerability, she had unlocked the door to an enduring love, not just for another person, but firstly for herself. Emboldened by her transformation, she turned her gaze forward, knowing that the most beautiful chapters of her life lay ahead. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now. It really helps feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Your engagement matters immensely.